Majority Leader Osei Mensah-Bonsu has hinted that the presentation of the 2023 budget statement and economic policy may be delayed by the government because of ongoing negotiations with the International Monetary Fund. According to Mensah-Bonsu, the delay will also allow Cabinet to consider and make input into the program to be agreed with the IMF before it is incorporated into the 2023 budget.
The Majority Leader of Government Business and Majority Caucus in Parliament, Osei Mensah-Bonsu, said the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, may have to delay the presentation of the 2023 budget to allow for the IMF negotiation to conclude and also to source input from Cabinet ahead of the presentation.
I'm not too sure as I sit here. I still have to have some discussions with the Minister responsible for Finance to determine exactly when we'll be able to submit the document to us. As you do know, the Public Financial Management Act provides that the budget should be presented to the House latest the 15th of this month. The discussions that are going on now involving the IMF, I think is going to take a little bit of a while. My understanding is that it will go into the first few days of next week, around the 10th or so. If that is the case, you then have to strand out the conclusions and factor them into the budget.
He, however, stressed that the action will not be in breach of the procedure because the Constitution provides November 30 as a deadline for the statement.
If it comes after the 15th, let's face it, it will not be in breach of the Constitution. The Constitution provides that the last date of presentation should be the 30th of November. So it will not be in breach, but we ourselves brought it forward to the 15th of November because we want more time to interrogate the principles underpinning the budget.
Ghana is currently in talks with the International Monetary Fund for an economic bailout due to the worsening economic conditions and ballooning debt stock.
We're joined via Zoom by senior lecturer with the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Patrick Esumi. Good evening to you, Doc. What are your initial reactions about government's move to delaying the 2023 budget statement and economic policy?
Good evening, and good evening to viewers. So I think it's the right decision to ensure that the IMF bailout is done before we read the budget, because whatever is agreed with the IMF is going to form the basis for our fiscal policy, not just in the coming year but also for the next few years. So I think it's important that we know exactly what we are getting into when it comes to the IMF program. At the same time, if you look at the timelines and where we are, even the end of November that the majority leader is talking about looks quite unlikely to happen. I'm not sure that we'll be able to agree on IMF deal by that time.
And is government able to conclude the IMF negotiations before the November 30 deadline to enable it make input into the budget?
I think too many things have to work in our favor for that to happen. We understand that the IMF team is coming to town next week. As of now, the debt sustainability analysis that will form the basis for a lot of the discussions, even if it has been concluded, it's not been made public. But I am not sure that it's been concluded. And then also, it's very likely that the analysis will say our debt is not sustainable, which requires that some additional actions have to be taken before we can get into an IMF deal. So overall, I think it's very unlikely that even towards the end of the month, we'll be able to agree on an IMF deal.
And Doc, my final question to you, how best do you think this should or can be handled?
I think a big part is, communication and information sharing. I think it's very important that the government is very truthful and upfront with Ghanaians, what may or may not happen, and not to raise expectations. It's obvious to all Ghanaians that we are going through a really difficult time. So I think it's important that the communication from our government side to the people of Ghana is to the point. And also the government shows that it's taking leadership when it comes to taking cuts. Because whichever way you look at it, it's going to require a lot of austerity measures. So I think it's important that government shows that it's taking the lead by communicating clearly to Ghanaians what it is that it is giving up before it can encourage Ghanaians to also give us something for the long-term good of the economy.
Senior lecturer with the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Patrick Asumi, thank you very much indeed.